Hello everybody! I don't know if you've seen it, but I am doing a playthrough of Disco Elysium right now, in which I take a shot every time I die, and yeah, I do take a lot of shots. I am terrible at this game. That fucking chair, oh my god. So I thought that as a nice complement to that playthrough that I'm doing, I would talk a little bit about Disco Elysium. That is my second favorite game of all time. And I just wanted to talk about what it meant to me and why I like it so much and my favorite things about it, because Disco Elysium is a very deep, very well written piece of work. The way that it affects each player is different depending on your lived experiences. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and as a result, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. And Disco Elysium only loses to Papers, Please as my favorite game of all time, because I think that Papers, Please has a better game loop. I like games that do narrative things that you can find in any other medium, and the fact that you can play as someone in a frontier checkpoint and glean the state of a whole nation by that and possibly influence its future, I think it's brilliant. But Disco Elysium is a very close second. It's just that, well, it's an RPG gameplay and there are games that are similar to it, so it doesn't innovate that much in gameplay, but I do absolutely love it. And I do want to talk about my favorite things about it. My favorite clothing from Disco Elysium, I'm going to have to say the slutty kimono. I just think it's so funny. Like, you see this kimono on the apartment of a prostitute and you can take it, they let you take it and use it. And Kim comments on it if you do certain actions with the kimono. I think that it's absolutely fantastic. My favorite piece of music from this game, it has to be La Revolutionnaire. It's just, I don't know, it reminds me of that piece of music from Undertale where it's just a note that it keeps repeating, you know, when Flowey is telling his story to you. It reminds me of that, and I don't know what it is. It's just these notes that are very nostalgic and kind of sad. I gotta say that I actually like it. I'm not really a fan of music, so I don't have any notes or any special annotations about the music on Disco Elysium. I gotta say this is the only one that really put a mark on. But I do also like the ending piece of music, you know, when you go out with your colleagues from the police. That one was also good, but I gotta say that none of that really left a mark on me except for La Revolutionnaire. I think that it's very simple but also kind of sad, and I really like it. My favorite character, I have a few standouts. I think that the first one is the rich woman in the boat, because you can clearly see that the game was written by communists, that they do not like the bourgeoisie, they don't like rich people, and it would be really easy to write the biggest representative of them as someone that is stupid, as someone that is mean, someone that is evil, but they didn't. They wrote a woman that is really respectful, and you do have a certain admiration for her, and that's kind of the point. They treat Everclear as this sleazy scumbag that's kind of corrupt, but he says, well, the woman is really nice, the representative from the company, she is really nice, but she can't afford to be nice because she is in control. She can just be chill. She doesn't have to fight and do corrupt things like we do, because she's already in control. And I think that it is absolutely brilliant that she is a really nice one to talk to. She can give you money, and she can explain a lot of things about the world to you and be really nice to you about your amnesia. But you gotta remember that she's a board member of the company that hired actual war criminals to try to break up a strike. And it is a mask that she's putting on, the mask of the capital, that they pretend that they're human, but it needs to drop so that they can do the horrible things that they do. I think that she's really well written, and it is one of the major points that you can clearly see the intelligent writing of this game. Another standout, I think, it's the villain of the game, which is the deserter. I think he appears for a very small frame of time in the game, but he leaves a great impression in that small frame. It's actually amazing. It's honestly really sad and also really interesting how he's still a soldier fighting a war that he already lost. And he said he can be dismissed because all his superiors were killed. And he had one moment of weakness in his entire struggle against, the capital and for the communist regime. And he still defines himself with this moment of weakness. Same time, he's also really human. He's kind of crazy because of the bug pheromones affecting his mind. He doesn't kill Renee, and he kills the guy that the woman he has a crush on sleeping with. Usually when you talk about detective stories, it's a villain, it's a murderer that you can gather the clues and figure out who it is ahead of time. But this guy is just a guy that is there. You don't know him, you don't know anything about him, but in retrospect it makes a lot of sense that considering the game that this is on, is just a remnant of the past, someone that hasn't let go. He's great, I absolutely love him. But if I have to say my favorite character, I gotta say it's Rafael Cousteau. I love him, I love the player character. I think that it's amazing that this game managed to have so many possibilities of what kind of character you can make and what kind of person you can be, and Rafael Cousteau actually fits them all. He's a masterfully written character. He's someone that has a mysterious past, and he's so much in depression that he decided to erase his entire identity. And he can pretty much go anywhere that you want and he still makes sense. I just think that it's so hard to nail a character like this, and they did it perfectly. Just, I love it. My favorite storyline, gotta say that it's with your ex-wife. This is a little personal. It's a very personal question. And most people will say, oh, I really like how to talk about communism, how to talk about fashions. And indeed, this game is very well written in the political front, but I do personally identify more with the ex-wife. This kind of a little curiosity about me, I am a person who peaked in high school. Yeah. So I do have a lot of nostalgia for the past, and it is sometimes hard to let things go and just accept that you have to move on. I think that the situation, with Dolores Day, I think that it's a great branch out of the main theme of the game, because the game is about not moving on. It's about being stuck to the past, how Rafael wanted to do a communist revolution and wanted to change things, but the international forces forced it to remain a capitalist country the same as it always was. It's about how the world is literally ending, it's being consumed by the pale, because they still keep getting stuck in the past, and the only way to really fight it is by embracing the new, like with the Nordic dance music. I think that not only as a person that does peaked in high school and has a lot of nostalgia for the past, but also as a Brazilian, I can relate to this a lot, Like, I'm writing a dystopia right now that is set in Brazil, and they did a revolution, and it's now an authoritarian government, and a lot of things changed. Like, they outlawed religion, and they're actually more open to LGBT right now, and the country is completely closed to the outside world. But when you actually read the book, things are exactly the same, Like, yeah, some names changed and the technology is outdated, and sometimes you can see people writing in typewriters, but you still have to work on a shitty job to survive, and rich people are still rich people, and they still have a hold in the economy and everyone's lives, and the world is still kind of unsafe, and having security is a privilege. Things are exactly the same. If you know a little bit of Brazilian politics, you know that people that are in favor of the military dictatorship, they call the 1964 coup as a revolution. And it isn't. And even if you do support the military dictatorship, which I'm going to be honest, is not a point of view that I support at all, but even if you do, you need to understand that it was a coup to maintain things as they were, because apparently, according to the USA, we were too close to being communist, so they had the coup to maintain us as a capitalist country that is subservient to foreign interests. And in my book, the main thing that makes people support, the authoritarian dictatorship, is because it's entirely in control, so they don't have to worry about it. They say, oh, because in the olden days you read the newspaper, there were a lot of news about corruption, but now we don't see that anymore. Because of course there is a lot of censorship, but people don't support or hate the government, they just tolerate it. It's just something that keeps things the way they were, and they just gotta focus on their lives, on their jobs, raising their families, and not fucking up and doing anything communist. Yeah, but they just keep their heads down, just live their lives, which I think it's something that really happens in Brazil today, that sometimes it's really hard to hope for something better in our country and keep up with the news. You just gotta live your life and survive. And you do see that with Disco Elysium, that even though the main characters are cops, it does come up in a certain dialogue that their job is to maintain the status quo, not necessarily to help people. And the main character's ex-wife is actually portrayed as Dolores Day in the Morales side quest. They both represent inability to move on and to try new things. You can't just let the past be past and change into something new. People are still really hung up on the past and the way things always were. My favorite thought from the thought cabinet is the finger on the eject button, because I have struggled with suicidal thoughts before, and it really speaks to me, the way they say, oh, you can slide your finger on the eject button and just feel the adrenaline that comes with it. Think about how much people will miss you, and it gives you a few bonuses like authority. It says, yeah, you don't have anything to lose anymore, you can just have the authority to do more things. But once you actually complete the thought, you don't gain anything. It doesn't even give you any negatives. It's just a thing that you decide very sober, I'm going to kill myself, and you get the option to kill yourself when you go to sleep.
Finger on the eject button. Looks like you thought about how much they'll miss you and the freedom of finality for too long, and now you've decided to actually kill yourself. The train leaves the station every evening, 2100. Make sure you have a gun and bullets. That's how macho servicemen do it. Also, turns out, Finger on the Eject Button is pretty much your theme song, a headbanger from your teenage years, and your wedding ballad. This is not the first time you're spinning the tape.
And I think that it's a very good, well-written thought. I think that one of the best things about this game is that the main character is a fucking mess, and it shows many facets of the despair that he's feeling. It shows his addiction, it shows his self-destruction, and you can really see that all of these facets are written really well, because despair is something that depends from person to person, exactly how you're feeling. There are people that self-destruct with suicidal thoughts, there are people that self-destruct with alcohol or drugs, and the team managed to nail absolutely all of them. And my favorite thought is the suicidal thought, because of personal reasons, of course, but I think that it's so sobering about it. And when you decide to kill yourself, it's not something sad, something that makes you depressed. It's just a feeling of finality, something that you just decide to do, and it's just in your head, It does give you some pleasure to think about it, but when you decide to actually do it, it's very sobering. My favorite skill is conceptualization. This was my signature skill the first time that I played through, and I became an art cop because that's who I am. I am an art cop. And it's interesting because being an art cop actually gives you a ton of experience. It was really great from my playthrough. And it isn't the funniest of skills, and You may argue that it's not the most useful, but I did really like it. I am a conceptualization gal. I don't have anything to add to this. My favorite scene was the one that they were in the springs waiting for the car to melt. That was absolutely beautiful. You see, Kim is a very patient person. He does go along with a lot of crazy shit that you want to do. And he's always like, well, let's focus on the case, let's be professional. But he just takes a few moments, a few hours to just sit with you and just wait for you to come to the inevitable realization of what you really did. And he's there to comfort you, and it's just very gentle. I really, really love this scene.
The tune on your lips forms a strange yet undeniably beautiful contrast with the surrounding bleakness. The lieutenant gives you a quick glance, then, still looking straight ahead, he joins you with a higher pitched and slightly more melodic trill. Two birds on a wire, whistling by the seaside, looking at the water and the sunken car.
In case you're wondering, I don't ship Kim and Rafael Cousteau as lovers. I don't. I think that they are friends, but they're the kind of friendship that it is stronger than love. They're just fire-forged companions. Maybe one day they explore each other's bodies just to fulfill some kind of curiosity or because they're stressed out. But I do like to think that they are friends and that friendship is stronger than romantic attachments. And I think that it's a really cute scene. I really like it. It is a really soft, really gentle. And you see your player character despairing because he thinks he's going to be fired because he destroyed an entire car. And Kim's just there being like, yeah, it kind of sucks, but let's just take our time, just sit here and just, wait it out. I think it's a beautiful scene. I absolutely love it. So what was my favorite ideology? I didn't actually go through all of them yet, but I have read a lot of them online, and it does seem like the communism is the best one. It is the playthrough that I'm doing, the drunk playthrough, because you can clearly see that the creators are communists, and instead of going through all the others and just being like, yeah, this is why these ideologies kind of suck, you can see that the communists, they're just, yeah, it's really hard and it failed many times, but at least they're trying. And I think that it's the one that thematically fits the game best, like they're trying to fight against the pain, trying to fight against things staying the same and being like, yeah, the world is broken and let's try to fix it. It doesn't have to remain like this. And it does recognize a lot of flaws in communist theory, but they're like, yeah, but we need to keep trying. The stars can go out. Not a communist, but from what I've seen, this was really well written, and I can't wait to play it. So yeah, these are my thoughts on Disco Elysium. This is the first game in a long time that I felt the need to actually get platinum on this game. I do want to see everything that the game has to offer, and I think that it's a shame what happened with the original creators, that they were dropped out of the company, and I don't think that they will be involved in the sequel. I think it's a shame. I think they deserved a lot better, because Disco Elysium is a very personal experience. You can tell that the creators know what they're talking about, the writers, they understand what they're talking about, addiction, suicide thoughts, self-destruction, and the way that the world is today. And the fact that they were just kicked out of the project is really sad. I hope that the sequel can carry the same spirit, and I do absolutely recommend you guys should play it. It's really great game.